Welcome to the Diverse Minds podcast, where we give you the tips, tools, and techniques you need to be a mentally healthy and inclusive leader. Each week, you'll hear about a variety of topics linked to mental health, well-being, and diversity that will enhance both your professional practice and personal well-being. Welcome to the award-winning Diverse Minds podcast. And as you know, this month's focus is all about sharing your story. And to join me in talking about this more and empowering beliefs is Shazney Spence. She's a personal coach and the managing director of EQuanimity Lifestyle and Success Coaching Limited. She's a public speaker, Reiki master, and soul coach. She personally develops and empowers people to live their best lives, coaching them on a one-to-one and group basis. In addition, Shazney provides non-clinical mental health consultative support services to corporate organizations, and she's also a Diverse Minds associate. Shazney supports her clients to attain a state of mental, emotional stability and balance through focused coaching, energy work, and meditation. Through many years of her coaching experience, Shazney is highly skilled at managing individual relationships with the purpose of enhancing their professional learning, effectiveness, and fulfilment. And Shazney is all about seeking to understand individuals' goals and desires, helping the individual to meet them in an honest, unbiased, and personal manner. As the founder of the Super Soul Sanctuary, it is her mission to guide her clients to a space of clarity and calm, replacing overwhelm with awareness and aligned intentional action. Shazney has worked with a worldwide range of clients from varied business cultures, and previously during her 10-year career at Accenture, she was key in leading initiatives around human capital and driving change in the way mental health is viewed culturally within the organization. As the mental health lead for Accenture's UK division, Shazney was pivotal in engaging employees and leaders, leading conversations around mental health and well-being, facilitating monthly calls for those affected by mental health conditions. So Shazney, a huge welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, Layla.
We are delighted that you're here. I'm really pleased that you could talk about what you do. So I've given a brief introduction of you and yourself and a little bit about your coaching, but I think it'd be really nice for listeners to hear from you more about yourself and how you got into this work and what you do.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm Shazney Spence. I'm a soul coach, and I'll explain a little bit more about what that means. And also an energy healer, an energy practitioner. I practice the modality of energy healing, which is Reiki. And I'm also a mental health advocate. And I started my business almost 5 years ago after some real situational change. So I'll probably tell you a bit more about that in a little while. But I'm really passionate about helping people to step into their truth, to connect their mind and their bodies and their hearts and really live a life of intention, and to really have aligned practices that allow them to step into a life of real, contentment and really having an awareness around what it is they're meant to be doing on this earth. And I fuse all of that together with energy work and really helping people to ditch the overwhelm and step into a space of clarity and calm.
So really deep transformational work, which we know isn't always easy to do. So I don't know if you want to delve in more about your situations that led you to this work and how you empower people to do that.
Yes, of course. So I was an accountant, a management accountant for 26 years. And the situational change that happened was that I was made redundant from that work. But just rewind, whilst I was working as an accountant in the corporate world, I had the privilege for probably about 8 years to really have a great involvement in the mental health space. And I was the mental health lead for the organisation that I was working for. And it was at that point really that I realised that my passion was really about helping people to be honest and open about their mental well-being, to really have the opportunity to speak their truth. And I knew that I could hold space for people. So when I was made redundant, I decided to start EQuanimity Lifestyle and Success Coaching. And it really was a big leap of faith for me, but I knew that it was me really having the opportunity to step into my own power, to really embrace my own beliefs that I could do this to make an impact on people's lives. And equanimity is all about mental and emotional stability and balance. And that's really what I wanted to do, to help people to really have that balance, to really tune in, to listen to what was going on for them in their life, to really have a focus and to really embrace change. So yeah, a huge situational change happened for me, which then allowed me to step into this role of creating space for people. As a bit of a backstory, the reason why I was so passionate about the mental health space as well, particularly, is because I'd experienced periods of anxiety, depression. After I had my daughter 19 years ago, I had postnatal depression. So when I was the mental health lead, I was able to use my own lived experience to help people navigate through those situations themselves. So having that balance, having that safe space, having that opportunity to really tune in to their own mental well-being really kind of fueled me to create equanimity.
It's such a beautiful story, Shazney, and the fact that you talked really openly about postnatal depression. And we know that women of colour, and particularly Black women, often don't have the spaces to do that. So I think role modelling that behaviour and talking about your own lived experience is super important.
Yes, and that really gave me the relatability. When I was speaking with my clients, I knew my own experience, and I could really resonate with their experience as well. But that's not to say that all of my clients are experiencing mental ill health, but a large proportion of them have been or are. So it just allowed me to have that extra relatability, as I said.
And then thinking about beliefs, that you just touched on it, you said, my own belief to create this business and what I do. And I wondered, what does it, what does empowering beliefs, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, definitely. So as I said, equanimity for me is about mental and emotional stability and balance. And I truly believe that we have disempowering beliefs as well as empowering beliefs. And when you start to peel back the layer on those beliefs, we can actually recognize that they're just stories, and we can either choose to build on those empowering beliefs, or we can just focus on the disempowering ones. So for me, when I was starting my business, for example, when I was leaving the corporate world, the belief was very prevalent that accountancy was all that I was ever good at, and that was the only thing that I could ever do. However, I knew deep down in my soul that there was a desire to help people more fully, to help them to step into their purpose. My empowering belief knew that my purpose was to help others. My purpose was to create that space for others to really dig down into their own belief systems. Beliefs are so powerful. And it was only through myself, having a coach myself, that I was able to really examine those beliefs without judgment, and really looking at those stories that I was telling myself through a lens of love and not judgment. Then I realized that those beliefs could then become springboards for me to then step into my purpose and to create an impact. So yeah, that's what empowering beliefs are about for me, helping people to recognize that they can be empowered, that they can do the things that really sit within their, the pit of their stomach, that their desires and passions that they've always wanted to achieve. If they give themselves that opportunity just to be open and honest to do the work, the inner work, the mindset work.
And it's so much easier, isn't it, to do it for other people? Because just hearing you talk, I'm thinking, but you've got the best of both worlds. Like, amazing. You can totally run a business because you're a management accountant. What more do you need? And then you've also developed all these other skills over the 8 years of being a mental health lead. Crikey, what's stopping you? But I think when we're in the driving seat, or we don't even want to get in the car, shall we say,
Yes.
It's so much easier to do it for other people than to do it for ourselves sometimes, having that self-belief.
100%. And I think what happens as well when you're in a position where you are potentially at a crossroads and have a choice as to, do I go left, do I go right? Sometimes we have those beliefs that are actually ingrained beliefs, that they're not even ours. They're just beliefs that have been passed down to us generationally, or from our parents, or from our friends. So we've got to really do the work to understand, well, are these beliefs even mine? Are they beliefs that are pushing me towards achieving what I want to achieve, or are they keeping me stuck, in inverted commas? Because I don't believe that we're ever truly stuck. We just think we are, we believe we are. But if again, we look at that situation and ourselves through that lens of acceptance and trust and love, that's when the judgment and the disempowering beliefs kind of fade away.
And I'm reading the kindness method at the moment, actually, which I'm sure will be familiar to you. And lots of these things are picked up. Yeah, like, why don't we make change? It's not that we're weak-willed or we're bad people, but it's these ingrained unhelpful beliefs. What they're trying to do is keep us safe, but they're not serving us anymore.
No, absolutely. And I do a lot of work with my clients around the ego. The ego is the fear-based thinking, the beliefs that want us to feel contained, the beliefs that we need to stay safe if we stay small. There's a great book, which I'm sure you will have heard of and other people have heard of, called The Power of Vulnerability by Brené Brown. And she says, don't shrink, don't puff up, stand in your sacred space. So when you do this work around, your belief systems, and you really connect with your heart and give yourself the compassion to do this kind of work, it allows you to be empowered, because you don't shrink, you don't puff up, you don't exaggerate or follow the ego. You allow yourself to actually stand in your power, and that's what I facilitate with people by holding space for them, giving them that opportunity to actually think, right, where are the areas in my life that I am shrinking? Where are the areas in my life where I'm probably talking the talk, but not really walking the walk, and not having that alignment? So it's all really, really important stuff when we think about embedding those empowering beliefs into our daily practices.
And I remember before I was starting my business saying to Janet Morgan, and if you want to check out her episode about neurodiversity and race and culture, please do. But I said to her, what am I going to do? I don't have a prestigious institution email address. And she went, do you really think that matters? Like, you're still you. It's just an email address has changed. But in that moment, it feels so real. And it feels like, oh no, but I can't do it because this is hijacking me.
Yes, definitely. And it's that inner critic, isn't it, Layla? It's having the awareness of the inner critic. A lot of people say that you should kind of make your inner critic an enemy. And I don't agree with that. I think your inner critic it's your ego, of course. It's that fear-based thinking, but it's also your inner mean girl or inner mean boy, man, woman, whatever you identify with, inner mean person. It's your sat-nav back to your truth. Your truth is that you are powerful. I often say to my clients, when that inner critic pops up and that belief pops up or that story, just witness it and acknowledge it, and then thank that thought for popping up or that belief system, and then challenge it, see if it's true or not, and then take the action, the action that really feels aligned with you and feels intuitively right. That's another way of navigating around those belief systems and that inner critic, using it as your sat nav back to your truth.
I think that's a super helpful way of thinking about it. Absolutely. And saying, thank you for keeping me safe, but I've got this. Yes. Now move over.
That's right. Exactly. Because it is all about safety, isn't it? You're absolutely right. The ego tells us that we're not safe. And then potentially we don't express our truth. We don't say that we're feeling low, or we don't say, this is what I'd really like to do in terms of career or whatever it is. So it's just having that awareness, that consciousness that allows you then to challenge the ego, to challenge the fear.
And I don't know if you have any thoughts, and I'm using the term global majority, and of course that encompasses many, many, many cultures, diaspora communities in the UK. But from your work and the sense that you have, given racism, institutional racism, systemic trauma, all of those things, and also the cultures we grow up in, and people not being able to mourn people they might have lost in COVID, in using their religious and their cultural ways. What do you think then? How have you seen that have an impact on people not having empowering beliefs, or they just can't even think about empowering beliefs because they've really been through it?
That's a really good question. I think the global majority, the cultures especially, that there's this fear of being judged or discriminated against, or there's a stigma or a shame of being open and honest about, emotional stuff. So the way that I've seen it with people in my business is that I've really had to go that extra mile to just let them know it's okay to have those moments of vulnerability, to really sink into a space of self-compassion. I truly believe that fear is the absence of love. So when we put lots of love into a situation or into ourselves, the fear disappears. And obviously, because of the cultural, societal pressures to perhaps not be honest about your mental well-being, to not speak about your emotions, we can negate that by returning to love. And just, for me, especially in the work that I do, it's all about coming from that space of acceptance and that love, and helping my clients to know that it's okay to witness what's been going on. It's okay to honor that. It's okay to let go of any beliefs that other people have about how you should be dealing with trauma, how you should be dealing with grief. And it's just reinforcing that message that it's absolutely okay to not feel shame, to not feel that that vulnerability is synonymous with weakness.
And I think often, when people from our collective cultures have shown vulnerability, they might have been punished, or it might have been held against them. So it's really difficult, isn't it, to kind of weave that experience that, that you've had that, it's awful and you don't want to go back there again, but you've learned from that, and that still shouldn't stop you having those empowering beliefs. And that's really tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And something that I help my clients really to understand is that, whatever, there's a message in the mess. The past 2 years have seen so much change for people. As you mentioned, people have lost their family members, they've lost livelihoods, they've experienced real hardship. But there's so much that we can learn from the way that we navigate around that. And I think there has been, from my experience, a greater level of connection and connectivity between communities, between people, because we've been locked away. People have had to be more connected. And it's almost like, and what I've seen is that people have always had the permission to be more connected. And it's my endeavor really for people to recognize that what they've lost over the past 2 years, that connection and being free to go wherever they wish to go, that they can really learn from the 2 years of Zoom, the 2 years of connecting with family members intentionally, that you can really learn from that and continue that on and make a choice through your belief systems that, less fear and more empowerment and belief that, yes, I can get through this if I'm honest and open about what's going on emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think it's about thinking about the positives from what we've been through. I'm not saying we gloss over all the trauma and everything, but yes, you're right. And I have heard people say, my manager never understood, and now they've gone and they've read something, or they've educated themselves, and it's almost, it's had a 360 and they've gone, I'm so sorry. Now that's not everyone, but that has been happening. Yeah,
definitely. I think people have realized what's important. Not everyone, as you say, it's not a broad brush, unfortunately, but I think what the past 2 years has reinforced in people is that there is this need to take care of, their emotions, the mind-body connection, to really think about what's important, to honor and approve of themselves and the values that they're living into. The ethos of my business is aligned, intentional living, and the reason why I had that as an ethos and as a tagline, if you like, is I really, really believe that no matter what you're going through, if you set an intention and wake up with intention each morning and then take aligned action, you can have a much more fulfilled life. It doesn't mean that every day is sunshine and roses, but what you can do is really honor yourself. You can honor your emotions. You can really feel as though you've got some clarity around, right, this is what I'm going to do today. This is who I'm going to be today. And I think, especially within the global majority cultures, this is something that I really want to enforce and help, not enforce, but help people to realize that they have a choice and a decision to really be open and honest about their emotions, what they want from the day, what they want from their immediate circle. And they've got that power to change and facilitate that if they just start with being honest and open with how they're feeling.
Yeah, it's that point around agency, isn't it? That often people don't realize they have in some way. I'm not saying we all have perfect agency and we will always have the structures of society there, but that's what I'm really hearing you say about that agency piece.
Yes, definitely.
And so how do you think workplaces then, and in with the work that you do and how you do it, can introduce more of this kind of holistic mind, body, emotional connection, and get people to think more about empowering beliefs? I mean, it could be from the way that appraisal forms are written, it could be anything, but what do you think? How can workplaces really harness this way of thinking for improvement?
Yeah, great question. For me, the mind-body connection is really that alignment. Again, it's between your head and your heart. It's you feeling that you've got clarity. And I think workplaces, clarity and calm, really, they're the two things that I help people to establish. And I think workplaces can introduce practices that will allow their employees to feel this way by allowing them more time, allowing the staff more time to practice the pause. That would be a great thing, first and foremost. I've worked in really high-pressured, high-powered environments, and what happens is so many people experience burnout. I've been there myself. I've got the T-shirt for that. So in terms of workplaces helping their employees to have those kind of mind-body connections, changing the ways of working, factoring in times where staff can just practice that pause, having meditation sessions. It could be, signposting them to professionals. A lot of organizations have employee assistance programs. It could be, having workshops or little mini masterclasses, having lunch sessions. There's lots of different things that they could do. I think the main thing is creating an environment that is favorable so that people know that they can access these kinds of holistic offerings without it seeming, woo-woo or not going to benefit the bottom line, because at the end of the day, it really does benefit the bottom line. Human capital is the organization's biggest asset. So if you nurture and take care of your staff by offering these kinds of provisions, it really allows you to impact your bottom line, because you've got happier people, more empowered people, and people who really have that consciousness and awareness of their own well-being.
Yeah, it's so true, isn't it? And we know that if people are off sick for a long time, if they need to be, we're not saying don't be off sick, but a lot of the time it's preventable, and how managers do that. And if people had someone to talk to and they genuinely felt it was confidential, because the culture in the workplace was that, yeah, we respect you and we respect privacy, as opposed to this, we need it yesterday, or I'm going to look in your records. Are you sick really? Give me the medical evidence. That has a very different vibe to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. I've been so fortunate to do some consultancy work for a really large organization, and I hold confidential calls for their staff. So as a mental health advocate, I offer non-clinical support, and that is a confidential call. So again, it's my opportunity to hold space for people. When they attend that confidential call, they can really truly be authentic. And I think that's another thing that organizations would do well to facilitate, to make it safe for their employees to feel authentic. When I was at Accenture, that's where I was working before I started my business. They had lots of great initiatives such as Truly Human, helping people to really bring their full selves to work. So having the culture of the organization, one in which it's very inclusive but also confidential when it comes to expressing people's mind, body issues or challenges, will really be a more inviting place for people to work. And as I've said, it will strengthen the business case and the bottom line as well.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's, absolutely spot on. And moving on to your mental health, you're an incredibly busy professional. You do a lot of holding space for other people. So how do you look after your own mental health, Shazney? And what are your top 3 tips that you use to do that?
Well, I have a coach, and I have had a coach for many years. I really invest in my own personal development, as well as my own spiritual and mental and emotional development. I practice breath work and meditation, and something that I started last year, which has really been huge for me, is cold water therapy and improving my vagal tone. So I'm obsessed with the vagus nerve and the importance of having a really toned vagus nerve. So it's part of it facilitates the parasympathetic nervous system. It's the largest nerve in the body. So once that's working happily and efficiently, we feel good. So cold water therapy allows me to do that. So I dip in the sea. I'm fortunate to live near the sea. I take cold showers and I have a daily spiritual practice. So I meditate, I journal, and it might sound strange, but my daily spiritual practice involves having a hot bath as well. So those are the things that I do to look after my mental health and well-being.
Brilliant. And everyone always has a different special tip, and yours is, I've not had anyone say cold water. Sometimes it's known as cold water therapy or engagement with cold water in the sea, in showers. So that's beautiful. Thank you. And I know it will resonate with a lot of people, because I think it is a real tonic for so many in so many different ways. So Shazney, I know people are probably thinking, right, this woman, I want to work with her, and rightly so. So if people want to know more about your work, and I will of course include the links in the show notes, but how should they contact you? How should they get in touch?
So they can contact me on my website, www.shazneysspence.co.uk, and they can contact me on Instagram, which is where I spend most of my time in terms of social media. And it's at Shazney Spence _soul coach. And I do apologize, I didn't give the top tips. I told you about my mental health, but just really quickly, the top tips I'd offer people are to strive for authenticity and not perfection, because that doesn't exist, perfection. Secondly, to practice the pause and to really tune into their body and their emotions, to really witness any emotions that come up for them without judgment. And finally, just, don't be afraid to ask for help. If you're feeling challenged and you don't know where to turn and you're feeling overwhelmed, ask for help.
And I think that's a beautiful one to end on, because in order for us to have those empowering beliefs and change the stories that are unhelpful to us that we might tell ourselves, that, we need to reach out for that help, whether it's professional help, coaching, talking to friends. So thank you so much, Shazney, for your insights, and really great to know about how you look after your mental health and well-being. I think that will definitely inspire people too. And it's been a joy to speak to you.
It's been a joy to be here, Layla. Thank you for inviting me to speak today.
I know, that's brilliant. And take care, everyone. And we will see you on the next episode. Thanks for listening to the Diverse Minds podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you access your podcasts from. You can also connect with me on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Tune into next week's episode of the podcast, where I'll bring you more insights on mental health and inclusion. Bye for now.